Yeah, Machamp seems to disappear for the entirety of the season, but we're really surprised to see it last year in the very final match of the senior division, and now we see it in the top 8 of Masters. Not completely sure what it could do. There's a lot of different sets that work on it using that no guard ability. Choice Scarf has been the most popular in this format, which is definitely not something I would have expected in the past, but it's worked pretty well. Most of the Pokemon in this format are a little bit slower, so you can kind of get away with Machamp not being the fastest of Pokemon even when Choice Scarfed. Another interesting Pokemon I think we see here is Azumarill. In spite of the fact it's kind of been one of the best Pokemon all year, we really haven't seen it this weekend, so good to see at least one manage to make it to the top cut.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting to see how that works out. Of course, you see on the left hand of your screen, that is Ryosuke Kosuge, who went undefeated in Swiss this time around. Of course, he was the finalist last year, the runner-up in last year's World Championships. And he's on your screen right now. And across from him, that's Markus Liu on the right there in the middle of your screen, going to be representing Germany in this top 8 match. And we've got the game underway. We have Markus leading with that Rotom and the Azumarill up against Ryosuke's Charizard and Hydreigon.
And not a bad start for Ryosuke here. I think part of the reason his team is so good is that he's able to have a lot of really threatening lead combinations, and this is a pretty good one for him here. You know, depending on the item on that Hydreigon, it could threaten the Rotom here with a boosted Draco Meteor. Charizard, a bit of a problem for Azumarill. You know, the Drought ability, reducing the damage of Aqua Jet, Solar Beam and that Drought able to do big chunks of damage. So both sides have to play this pretty carefully here because there is the threat of Azumarill attacking Hydreigon the other way.
Yeah, it looks like we're just going to get all of the heavy hitters out on the field immediately. That Charizard is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve into Mega Charizard Y, bringing the Drought, the Sun on the field now, going to weaken the attacks of that Azumarill, while Rotom, Heat Rotom is going to go ahead and protect itself from any incoming attacks, as well as that Azumarill just going to go ahead and scout out a little bit, see what Ryosuke has up his sleeve, and we're just going to have both of those attacks blown right into those protects.
Yeah, we do at least get to see the, or I guess the play there for Markus there is what he did is he's expecting this Hydreigon has a choice item. They played in Swiss, so it's very likely he's correct in that assumption. So by double protecting there, he's able to figure out what Hydreigon is able to do. You know, a double target in Azumarill could have been very disastrous for him there, even though the normal play would be to Draco Meteor that Rotom. So now he's able to make a safer play, knowing what his opponent is able to do. That's kind of the danger of choice items. You're getting more power, but you're restricting your options. So safe play there to get into a safer spot here, but still some big offensive pressure from Ryosuke's side of the field here. Markus is going to have to try to probably make a switch here to adjust his positioning a little bit and get control of the game.
Yeah, that Azumarill is going to go ahead and switch out, even though it has some huge power of its own, not going to want to withstand the threats from that Charizard and Hydreigon. And Machamp is out on the field. Machamp going to be the switch in here as the Draco Meteor does come out onto that Heat Rotom. We'll see if that Markus will be able to survive that. No, not even close. Hydreigon is going to get the clean KO onto that Heat Rotom. Heat Rotom does go down. We'll have to see if Charizard can make anything happen here. And it looks like it is going to be able to connect that that Solar Beam onto the Machamp switch in, dealing some great damage there. Not quite enough for the KO, but still really good damage on Machamp.
Yeah, big critical hit Solar Beam there is going to take Machamp a little bit lower than it might have been otherwise. It shouldn't change the amount of hits needed to knock it out here, at least unless another Pokemon is switched in, but definitely a lot more damage than Markus wanted to take. I mentioned before, it's kind of in a precarious position the previous turn, and this definitely makes things a lot trickier. This is a little bit better. If that Machamp does have a Choice Scarf, like I mentioned before, he would be able to threaten the Rock Slide onto the Charizard and give Mawile some room to do some work here. But otherwise, not a very favorable position. You know, losing an entire Pokemon, Machamp almost down, and now this Mawile, even though it's out and able to do some damage to the Hydreigon, it really can't do so safely in front of a Charizard. So still a precarious spot.
Yeah, and Mawile is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve into that Mega Mawile. We're going to be able to see if Mawile now will be able to deal any damage back to Ryosuke. Ryosuke is going to go ahead and protect that Charizard, potentially scouting out for that Rock Slide like you mentioned. Machamp is going to go ahead and attack into the Rock Slide on the Protect of Charizard. Going to deal some little damage to that Hydreigon. Definitely a smart play there. Gets the Scout out onto the Scarf Rock Slide there. Mawile is going to be able to play rough and get the KO onto that Hydreigon, though. Of course, basically just giving Ryosuke a free switch here, though.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what he has in the back, and not such a bad situation. He does see that the Machamp has chosen to lock into the Rock Slide there. Fortunately, wasn't able to pick up that Machamp KO, which would probably have sealed this game for him. But still, he's not in a bad situation here. The very fast Aerodactyl will be able to solve some of the problems he was having before. Puts him back into a nicer spot here. And that's really the advantage when you take an early lead like that. You can just make the safe play. As pretty obvious Charizard would protect there because of the threat of the Rock Slide, but he doesn't really lose much for it.
Yep, and Machamp is going to go ahead and switch out. Even though it has a Rock Slide advantage against both of these Pokemon, doesn't want to risk the speedy Aerodactyl getting to him first. Mawile going to go ahead and protect, just going to try and waste a couple of turns here. We do see the Aerodactyl going for its own Rock Slide, going to hit the Azumarill for some little bit of damage there, and of course the Protect from Mega Mawile is going to protect itself from the Rock Slide and the Heat Wave coming out from Charizard. So both of those attacks, the Heat Wave and the Rock Slide, getting Azumarill under 50% already.
Yeah, the really surprising thing about that is that it stayed under 50%. Most often we see Azumarill using Citrus Berry with the Belly Drum set. Not in this case. Ryosuke would already know that from having played him in Swiss, but certainly interesting for us in the audience here to see that this isn't quite the normal Azumarill, and I guess that's probably part of why he got to the top cut. We've seen a lot of unconventional movesets today, and not using the most expected set for every Pokemon definitely helps you get an advantage in your foes.
Definitely. And we do see Markus going to go ahead and retreat that Mega Mawile in favor of Machamp, going to give Machamp a switch in here. Very risky with that low HP. Might take another attack on the switch in. Azumarill going to go ahead and protect. So no damage coming out from Markus on this turn. Rock Slide comes out from the Aerodactyl. Will it be enough to get the KO on Machamp? Does get the KO on Machamp. Machamp is down now, leaving Charizard pretty free reign on this against this Mawile, unless Azumarill can really pull something out once the sun ends.
Yeah, the sun ending there is the one thing that may be the saving grace for Markus here. He's really given up a lot, but without the sun up, Charizard is no longer able to use that Solar Beam against Azumarill. Certainly, definitely not out of the woods. With Charizard against two Pokemon, it does pretty well against, but it may need to switch here. Probably the safest play, pending there being something in the back he can bring in safely. But he still has some options here on Ryosuke's side. Definitely on Markus' side, he's just kind of hoping for a mistake, something to give him an opening here. And
Ryosuke is going to go ahead and switch out the Aerodactyl instead of the Charizard in favor of that Garchomp. Charizard is going to go ahead and protect, so sort of a mirror of Markus' turn last time. Both of those Pokemon dealing no damage, just going to go ahead and switch out. Get a free switch in, actually, from Garchomp. Both of those attacks going into the Protect of Charizard.
Yeah, that was a really good play by Ryosuke there. I mentioned previously, the last time he protected the Charizard, it was pretty obvious, but he's just kind of cashing in on that advantage to make a safe switch. This time, the more conventional play would have been to switch Charizard, but he took advantage of that and got a free switch instead. Speaking
of the conventional play, Charizard does switch out in favor of that Aerodactyl. Of course, good friends with that Garchomp, going to be able to stay above the fray of battle here, as Garchomp likely to use that Earthquake to attack both the Mawile and the Azumarill. There's the Earthquake coming out. Azumarill, of course, did protect, but the Earthquake not quite enough for Mega Mawile. It stays on with just a sliver of HP. It is going to play rough on that Garchomp, and instead, Mawile gets the free KO. Oh, yeah. But the rough skin. A little less free with the rough skin there. Mawile going down along with Garchomp, and Charizard should be able to come in here and easily clean up this game. Interesting to see that Earthquake didn't knock out Mawile. Certainly looked like a Choice Band set in the previous set that Ryosuke played, so I'm perhaps not using maximum attack because of that. But still, interesting first game here. I think that probably a little disheartened if I'm Markus here. And Ryosuke already beat him once in Swiss, and this was a pretty dominant victory. He always had control. Really, the Pokemon he lost, he kind of gave up willingly to keep that control, so it's going to be tough to get back to the drawing board. Yeah, we see a last-ditch effort from Azumarill. A very valiant fight at the very end. The Aqua Jet onto the Charizard, but the Rock Slide from Aerodactyl, and then this Charizard going to be able to get the final KO using that solar power. Going to get the easy KO here, and Ryosuke is going to take this first game. Yeah, pretty dominant victory there. Impressive play. We saw him win in pretty dominating fashion the last time he was on the stream. And this time, didn't really lose a step there. I don't know. I think this is a tough spot for Markus here. He's already had quite a lot of time to try to figure out what he wants to do here, as a sort of the advantage of having played in Swiss already. Maybe he lost the first time, but he has, instead of having a minute and 30 seconds to game plan, he had possibly a couple hours. But it's not really looking like he's had too much here. Now, hopefully he'll pull something out in this last game. I know both teams or the finalists of last year's World Championships. That's not what happened. Right. You can never count someone out in a situation like this. What he did last time was he, kind of just really shook things up against his opponent. Did a lot of things that
ended up sending the game in a way that wasn't nearly quite how Sachin Parker's opponent last year had planned it. So
right.
We'll see if he's able to, or his opponent's able to do the same thing to him this year. I see he has switched things up himself, switching to Maul, so not likely to see Charizard again this game. So already, in spite of winning the first game, he's the one making adjustments this time.
Yeah, but he's not the only one, Markus, with the Machamp and Rotom leads now up against Ryosuke's leads on the bottom of your screen there, that Aerodactyl and the Mawile. Going to be interesting to see. We've already seen that Aerodactyl putting a lot of threat, but of course both the Machamp and the Heat Rotom can now threaten it, and Mawile not going to feel pretty safe against either of these Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I guess it depends though. I don't know if, well
Machamp doesn't feel safe against either of the opponent's Pokemon, apparently. Machamp going to go ahead and switch out in favor of Markus's own Mawile. Going to get that Intimidate onto both the Aerodactyl and Ryosuke's Mawile. It's going to be pretty big as far as reducing the attack of both of these Pokemon. Ryosuke is going to go ahead and protect his Mawile, while Aerodactyl going to go right for the attack onto... sorry, looks like that was probably a Tailwind. And Rotom going to go for the Thunderbolt onto Aerodactyl. Hangs on with the Focus Sash, but Tailwind up now for Ryosuke.
Yeah, some cute plays by both sides there. Excellent job to Thunderbolt that Aerodactyl. Really the best thing that he could have done there, and really the only positive thing he could have done there. Also getting the double Intimidate off, so Markus really had an excellent turn there. I do like that Ryosuke got that Tailwind up, so it's still, you know, even though he's losing in health, he has some offensive momentum there. And also wisely didn't Mega Evolve his own Mawile, so if he chooses not to attack with his Tailwind, instead to retreat, bring something else out, maybe attack with Mawile again later once it's not Mega Evolved, he's able to get that Intimidate a second time. So very bright there to keep his options open. I think that's something a lot of players need to learn to do more in this metagame. It's not always the right move to Mega Evolve immediately, though he's still choosing to do so.
Mega Mawile going to go ahead and appear on Ryosuke's side. Going to want to make sure that he's able to take advantage of the Tailwind boost while he has it. Markus's Mawile also going to go ahead and Mega Evolve. Going to be right there with him. And it looks like Markus is going to be able to Sucker Punch that Aerodactyl, get the KO, that last hit point there. Aerodactyl is going to go down, so Markus taking the early Pokemon lead right now, but Ryosuke's Mega Mawile with the Fire Fang, dealing about half HP against the opponent. But it looks like Heat Rotom isn't just going to let his partner get bit, and he burns up that Mawile himself. Overheat gets the one-hit KO on Ryosuke's Mega Mawile, and just like that, the ball's in Markus's court.
Yeah, suddenly things have changed a lot from that first game. Just as easily as Ryosuke took, seems like it's going to be hard for him to take this one, and we're likely to see a game 3. He does still have most of the Tailwind available, and both Garchomp and Hydreigon are going to be able to do some pretty big damage here. So while Markus is definitely not out of the woods yet, things are definitely looking up for him. He's going to have to find ways to make some safe switches here, but still, he's in good shape. The only thing is going to be trying to stall that Tailwind out. He really can't afford to lose too much before that point. Yeah,
and the best way to stall out Tailwind is to protect. That Heat Rotom is going to go ahead and protect itself. The Sucker Punch coming back out from the Mega Mawile, going to get as much damage done as possible before it goes down itself. Garchomp is going to go ahead and use that Earthquake to finish off Markus's Mega Mawile, going to go ahead and feint it as a Hydreigon and Rotom Heat not taking any of that damage from Earthquake thanks to their Levitate ability. As Mega Mawile does go down, and Hydreigon is going to use an attack into that Protect.
It's actually the perfect play on Markus's side. Sacrificing the Maw there with only Garchomp and Hydreigon left on Ryosuke's side, it's not likely to be very effective for the remainder of the game. So he avoids wasting momentum, just kind of lets it go down once it's served its purpose. By using the Protect there, he doesn't get to see what both of these Pokemon have locked into. So he's gotten all the information he should need to close out this game. If he has the pieces now, he should be able to do it. He's still going to have to deal with quite a lot of damage coming the other way, but that Machamp should help out a lot here and removing the threats.
And it looks like Machamp isn't going to have a chance to move just yet, as that Garchomp is going to be able to fire off another Earthquake, shaking the field. Going to deal damage only to that Machamp. It deals pretty good damage, but not quite enough. Would have loved to get a little bit more damage. And the Machamp is going to go ahead and just get the Dynamic Punch, I believe, onto that Hydreigon. With the clean one-shot there. And then it's just going to be Garchomp against the world here, which Tailwind's nice, but it's going to be going away pretty soon. And it's not going to be dealing any damage now after that Will-O-Wisp.
and that Will-O-Wisp should all but seal his second game. So really excellent play by Markus there. We see that Machamp moving before the Hydreigon there. Like I mentioned before, not the fastest of Choice Scarf Pokemon, but just fast enough in this case. Not quite able to move before Garchomp, but that knockout on Hydreigon there is all he should need for this one.
Yep, and here comes Machamp for the finishing blow. That dynamic punch onto Garchomp. Garchomp is going to fate. Machamp does take the KO, and Markus brings us to a game 3.
It's definitely an interesting spot for both sides now. They both really decisively won one of their games, so it's certainly going to make them both rethink their strategy a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ryosuke go back to something more similar to what he used in the first game to win. There wasn't a huge amount of Pokemon adjustments on Markus' side other than the Rotom, which I think he could deal with what he with that Tailwind. Even though he got the Tailwind up, it was knocked right down to his Focus Sash immediately and never actually got to use any attacking moves because of the Sucker Punch that happened right afterwards. So definitely something he's going to want to look at this game. Now, not letting his Pokemon get coughed up quite so easily, especially with the Rotom easily finishing off the Maul. You know, the trading that Fire Fang damage on Maul for the overheat damage on his own Maul was definitely not worth it. So you have to trade a little more carefully this time. Yeah, definitely going to have to trade a little bit more carefully, as you said. Looks like Markus is going to go with what worked last time, that Machamp and that Heat Rotom up against the Aerodactyl and the Charizard leads from Ryosuke. And just a reminder, this is now an elimination match, right? This is game 3 of top 8. Whoever loses this match is going home, and their dreams of becoming the world champion are shattered. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Ryosuke was thinking like he had great chances of repeating his finals appearance from last year, you know, that 6-0 finish in Swiss, but it doesn't mean anything now. It's 6-0 in Swiss for him, 4-2 for Markus, but you know, winning this game is all that matters now. Exactly. And looks like Charizard's going to go ahead and protect, not going to want to let that Machamp get any damage off. The Tailwind coming back out from that Aerodactyl, going to go ahead and stick with the Tailwind play there. Rock Slide is going to come out from Machamp and deal good damage to that Aerodactyl. We'll see if the Rotom is going to double target it. Yes, Rotom is going to get the Thunderbolt, and again, Ryosuke loses his Aerodactyl early, but at least this time he gets to switch something in. Yeah, at some level he kind of fell for the same trick twice there. You know, both times he tried to protect and Tailwind with Aerodactyl out turn 1, and they gave it up quite easily. But this time you might be able to do a little bit more with it. The Charizard going to be able to do more offensively right now than Maul was able to last game. You know, he got the Tailwind up last time, but it was with an intimidated Maul on his side of the field. Right. You know, this time he's got Charizard and Hydreigon, both special attackers, not vulnerable to that sort of thing. So looking like, you know, you can fire an Overheat and a Draco Meteor now, do a bunch of damage if he chooses to. At least the offensive momentum is in his direction. I'd assume Garchomp is his last Pokemon who could come out and Earthquake with either of these guys. So he's got a lot of options now, but he's still behind. So again, you know, if you use the Tailwind and give up Aerodactyl to do it, you really need to do something with that Tailwind to not fall so far behind you're going to lose the game. Definitely. Markus is going to go ahead and retreat his Heat Rotom in favor of Azumarill, hoping to tank either a Dragon-type attack from that Hydreigon or some Fire-type spread from the Charizard. We do see Charizard going ahead and Mega Evolving right away. Hydreigon is going to go, sorry, that's the Sun that's going to be on the field. And it looks like we are going to see the Draco Meteor tried to go for the Azumarill, I believe, there, but of course, Azumarill not going to be able to take any damage, but the Solar Beam coming out from Charizard onto the Machamp. So Ryosuke predicting a switch in for Azumarill, but wrong slot there. And Rock Slide is going to come out from Machamp, doesn't quite get the KO onto the Charizard, but puts it into Aqua Jet range there. And being in Aqua Jet range makes all the difference. The clock is really ticking for Ryosuke now. He's running out of Tailwind turns. He's way behind on damage. He's way behind on Pokemon. He has to make a play here. It's going to be all over. Azumarill can knock out either of these Pokemon. He's got to figure out which Pokemon Azumarill is going to target and react appropriately. An Aqua Jet or a Play Rough hitting could be the game here. And it looks like Charizard's going to switch out. Ryosuke doesn't want to give up that heavy hitter just yet. Going to go ahead and switch in that Garchomp right away. Machamp is going to back out as well, going in favor of that Rotom, or that Heat Rotom back on the field. And Azumarill is going to go for an attack, is going to go for the Aqua Jet onto Garchomp. So Ryosuke does get the switch in there. So Garchomp comes in relatively unscathed. Hydreigon is going to be able to connect that Draco Meteor onto the Heat Rotom now. So Ryosuke getting a great play, trying to scramble his way out of the hole that he's dug himself into. Does get the KO onto Heat Rotom and builds a little bit of offensive momentum for himself. Yeah, the clock's still really ticking on it, but that is a huge play. At least evening the score on Pokemon now. Both sides have similar options. We see this Hydreigon coming in now. We haven't seen yet this series. Ryosuke likely knows the items from the previous series, but if it's something like a Choice Scarf, it could potentially make this endgame very complicated. We still have Azumarill out with that Play Rough threatening both of these dragon types, so certainly Ryosuke's not out of the woods yet, but at least he's back in the game.
And Azumarill believes that it is the greatest threat on the field, going to go ahead and protect, while it looks like we are going to see we're going to see some attacks coming through into the Protect onto Azumarill. And Hydreigon going to go ahead and for the Draco Meteor. Ryosuke's Hydreigon going for the Draco Meteor onto Markus's. Of course, we've already seen it lost its special attack, but it still gets the KO. Still managed to get the one-hit KO onto Markus's Hydreigon. That's a huge play. And now Ryosuke has the lead. Somehow Ryosuke managed to get the Pokemon lead.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine the way that was going, but looks like momentum's going the other direction fast now. That Hydreigon getting 2 clutch knockouts in a row, and really there's some big trouble the other direction now. You know, an Earthquake from that Garchomp would likely finish off Machamp, leaving 2 Pokemon for Azumarill to try to knock out in its own. It could definitely get 1, but if depending on what coverage move Hydreigon has, it can probably finish Azumarill off on its own. So Machamp's really got to find a way not to get hit by that Earthquake here. I don't know if you know, the combination of 2 attacks can do enough damage, or if he's got to gamble with Dynamic Punch here if he's able to. But yeah, it's starting to look bad for Markus after that giant lead he had. It seems like it was all but over for him, but now he's the one who really has to try to find a play to get out of his hole.
Yeah, we're going to see if Markus can come up with a miracle here to keep his lead and make it to the top 4. But it looks like Ryosuke is going to retreat that Garchomp, not going to go for the Earthquake here in favor of Charizard. Going to get the refresh the sunlight here. Gets the Ice Punch onto Charizard. Going to go ahead and sacrifice that Mega Charizard, so protecting the Garchomp, as it looks like we're going to get another Draco Meteor. Of course, this has been 2 Draco Meteors already. Will it have enough special attack to get the KO? Oh! Just barely gets the KO there. Machamp goes down. It's Azumarill up against this Hydreigon, gets the Play Rough off, does get the KO. So now we have Azumarill up against Garchomp.
Yeah, so we see Machamp is carrying that Ice Punch there. Isn't getting able to get the knockout it wanted, but the one it got might be just as good. Azumarill's such high HP there that even with that Choice Band, I'm not sure if Garchomp will be able to finish it off. With the way Rough Skin works, all it needs to do is knock this Azumarill low enough that Rough Skin finishes off. It would get the win, but we'll see what happens here.
And here comes the Earthquake. Of course, there are no other Pokemon on the field, so it's full damage, and it deals a lot of damage, but it's probably not going to be enough. Azumarill's Play Rough gets the KO onto Garchomp, and it looks like Rough Skin just not enough. Azumarill survives, just a sliver of HP, and Markus Leo takes down Ryosuke Kosuke in 3 incredibly close matches.
Well, what a shocking comeback. It looked like after that first game, the series was all but over, but Markus did a fantastic job battling back there, showing exactly why you don't give up. And a repeat of last year, Ryosuke's on the other side of the field this time, and after what looked like a dominating first game victory, he wasn't able to finish the series. A really impressive win by Markus, and it'll be really exciting to see how he goes in the top 4. Fantastic.
Yeah, you couldn't have asked for a better ending to that best of 3. Literally right down to those last probably 10 hit points on that Azumarill. What a great match that last game was.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been that close. It's likely with the way that damage works in Pokemon.